Alright, hello good yo-yo people, I'm Nate and this is Let's Talk Yo-Yo. Today we're going to be talking about a prototype, it's still in the prototype stage, a yo-yo from Circle City Yo-Yos that's going by the name of P40. It's their first bimetal yo-yo and it's pretty rad, so let's go ahead and talk about it. First things first, it's supposed to be a sort of bimetal version of the Warhawk, which is right here. I went ahead and reviewed this a while back, but honestly, if that hadn't been told that, I wouldn't have really noticed that much. I feel like they really kind of completely overhauled this and made it so that it was more fitting for a bimetal yo-yo, which is perfectly fine. But I wouldn't necessarily call it just like simply a bimetal version, at least from even looks. One of the biggest differences is that it has a D-size bearing, not a typical standard C-size bearing, which is pretty cool. And so it's also bimetal. This is Circle City's first bimetal, and I also love that red, by the way. I love that it just pops really nice. There we go. It pops really nice, and it's just nice and bright. Kind of reminds me of like the red that you'd find like on a sports car. And those bimetal rings are super beefy and chunky. Lots of metal there. So you can tell like it's got some heft to it, but it's not heavy. But you can certainly tell that weight is right up under the rims there, and you should assume just from what you see that it's going to be very stable. That it's also going to have some long spin times. And that D-bearing, from what my previous knowledge from D-bearings is that D-bearings tend to have a little bit more pickup and go from the first, right? From the first throw. It doesn't take much for them to kind of gather a lot of momentum because they're a little bit smaller in width. Not width, diameter. And so because of that, just the science and math and whatever. Yeah. All right. The other thing that came with this later, first off, Brad, he's a rad dude. You should be supporting Circle City. It's a great company. They really stand by their products. Brad's a great guy. Now, the gap on this was a little bit interesting, and I think that Brad's had some frustrations probably with this, but one thing to solve that was that it was a little bit grabby, and I don't think that was necessarily the pads, though the pads are flowable silicone, so they will take a little bit of time to break in, and they're really close to the bearing. So you're going to have some really tight response, which is great, right? Really reliable response, but at the same time, it can be a little bit too grabby maybe. What Brad did, to make a long story short, is supplied us with some spacers. And so there's three different variant thicknesses, okay, of a 0.1, a 0.2, and a 0.3 millimeter. So very, very small differences. I actually put the 0.3 in here. That's what I tend to like with this. It opens it up as wide as the gap can go, and I find that's a lot more forgiving, and you still get those tight binds, and you can still work with thicker string, and it's all good. Everyone's happy. I'm happy. But that's kind of a cool thing. You can adjust that. And I'm not sure what the production run will have with it, if it will have those spacers or they will just adjust the gap completely. Again, this is still in like the prototyping stage. There are a few tweaks. I don't know exactly. Once he hears back from reviewers and his team and so on, I'm not sure all that's going to be changed. But let's talk about it as is, okay? And who knows, maybe someday I will get an actual production run of it. But I think we have a lot to work with here. Okay, V-shape yo-yo, obviously, very competition focused, very just straight into the gap there. Rounded off enough though that should, catch zone should be comfortable, and bimetal. So of course it's just going to be a killer for competition play. All right, let's go and play it. See how it plays on the string. Welcome back to the on the string section with the P40 by Circle City Yo-Yos. As I talked about with that D bearing, you tend to have just a lot of like pickup, man, and it does. You don't have to throw this very hard. for you to get a really decent spin. Got to be careful almost, because it's kind of deceiving how fast, how just intense your spin is. Binds are really good with that. Like I said, I put in the 0.3 millimeter spacers in here, so the gap is as wide as it could go, and the response is still really good. Again, it has that flowable. I've been playing with it for a couple weeks, so I've broken it in, so it's exactly where it could be. So it's right out of the box. It may be a little bit, just a little bit grabbier, because if you've worked with flowable in a yo-yo before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You need to break it in. So let's talk about that gap. Yeah, so with that wider gap now, I have no problem with string wraps. I felt like without any spacers, it was grabbing a little bit for things like that. So for tricks that you're gonna have a lot of string wraps, now it's ridiculous how many string wraps you can get with this. That gap is really nice. You can, I mean, it's very easy to hit. Very competition focused. It was a bad throw, but it even like recovered from there. Yeah, I mean, horizontal is going to be no problem at all. It just pushes so much of that weight to the rims, plus the shape of it as well with that V shape. It just, you have little string drag, and it's going to be great for anything competition wise. The blast on there is really nice too. It's pretty standard, but the shape is really good for grinds. Let's see, I think it actually does have a little bit of an IRG on it. It does, even though it's got a bimetal ring there. It's got a hook. It's got just a little bit of a hook there. Alright, let's try some finger spins. I didn't talk about that in the hand section, but it does have like a little bit of a, it's kind of more flat than it dimples down, so you should be able to still pull off a finger spin. Oh yeah, no problem. But it moves around there enough that you can still kind of pop that in and out. No problem. Okay, not bad at all. Hey, sorry, it's been a little bit windy today. It's actually just kind of calmed down just this last second here. Yeah, rejections are solid on that too. Yeah, this might be the most competition-focused yo-yo that Circle City has put out to date. So, you know, for those who are on their team that compete, this might be the yo-yo that they gravitate towards. I like it a lot. But man, it has some power. You almost have to kind of watch it on those catches. It's fairly comfortable in the hand, but if you have a hard throw and you're kind of pulling it up, you got to be careful on that catch, or you're going to hit your hand the wrong way. It just has a lot of power. The other thing too, you know, bimetals in general are so difficult to get perfectly smooth. Plus, D bearings are hard to get perfectly smooth. And I would say this is pretty smooth. I mean, I would give it an 8 or so out of 10 for smoothness. It's going to be really difficult to get it perfectly dead smooth. But it is a prototype, so there are things that probably still need to work out. Now, I tried it without the spacers. You know, you can take my word for it if you'd like. And it's about as smooth as it is with the spacers and without. So with the spacers, I don't see like it's kind of inhibiting that at all, or making it more vibey. It's not vibey at all, okay? It's not dead smooth. And on the string, honestly, you can't feel that. You have to kind of put your nail to it in order to feel any kind of vibe at all. Again, not vibey. Okay. All right, let's go and throw one of my tricks, and then we'll call it a day. That was a weird catch. I meant to catch it on my pointer finger, but I didn't, and I'm not going to do it again. That may be my next trick tutorial. Breakdown here. I like that trick. Kind of fun. It's got a nice flow to it. So yeah, the P40, I'm really liking the fact that, you know, Circle City has gone after something that a lot of companies kind of strive to at some point. They do a bimetal yo-yo. It's not uncommon now. It seems like the sort of standard. But they decided to do something a little bit different that's going to stand out. It has a D bearing. And I do feel like it does stand apart from anything else in their collection as well of yo-yos. If you like Circle City, you'll like this yo-yo, but this is really going to be that competition beast from their line. So, which, good job, Brad. All right, that's going to do it for my remarks on the P40. Perhaps I'll get a production run of it and do a review of that as well. There are other reviews out there of this yo-yo. Make sure to check those out. Make sure to check out their Instagram page too, Circle City's Instagram page. You'll see all those reviews. Anyways, that's going to do it for now. As usual, good day and good yo-yo.